a few information about Startup Grind. Startup Grind, we aim to change the world one startup at a time. And by that, we mean that we to give startups everywhere the education and the opportunities that they can build, grow, and scale their companies. And we strongly believe in making friends, not only contacts. We believe in giving first and not only taking, and we believe in helping others before helping ourselves. A few housekeeping notes about today is if you like to contribute, use the chat function and we will pick up the questions during our fireside chat. But now, without further ado, I am pleased that Guillaume Chatelain has accepted to play the game. Hello, Guillaume.
Hello, Steve.
So, thank you for being with us. It's a hot topic. We are dealing with Web 3.0, real estate, the metaverse, and so on, NFT, and so on, business models behind it.
Yes.
Before we delve into it, could you just really, in one or two sentences, just tell us what is the Duchy?
Well, the Duchy is first, I would say, a metaverse, which is a bit, a word which encompasses a lot of, I would say, elements. But I could explain that it's just, I would say, a video game where you can access through a web browser. So you don't need this kind of VR headset when you see everywhere in the press. The idea is just to have a new medium of communication, much more visual, where you use an avatar to interact. So it's like a visual mean of communication. And why the Duchy, the name? It's because we wanted to represent the country Luxembourg itself.
Thank you very much. So let's delve a little bit into the story behind, because it's by the story that we learn, that we listen, hear your experiences. Starting from the start, how did it get to the idea of a Duchy metaverse? How did that come up?
Well, I need to pay tribute to my partner, Matthias Koine. Following the announcement from Mark Zuckerberg to completely change and transform his company, Facebook, into Meta, probably most of you know that metaverse itself is not a new subject. It's already was written in some science fiction books, and it was already developed thanks to Second Life in 2003, which was the first breakthrough into that word. But it gave the market a major, I would say, trigger to just maybe move to this new thing. And so my partner developed, because he had this experience in VR, how to build 3D buildings, how to also have some elements like avatar. So he developed an app for the country, and he named the project the Duchy. And at that time, I was also running another startup, and I was like, okay, well, could be interesting. And then I just realized the potential of what could be behind. I just understood why there was so much money poured in Asia, in US, in this sector. It's just because, maybe to sum it up, the information, when it goes to the brain, but through the visual, through our eyes, it gets much faster than just reading a text. So instead of just showing advertisement on Google Ads or I would say Instagram, now it's just about having something which strikes your mind when you move with your avatar. So it has much more potential to reach you as a customer. And that's why we felt the need to, and I said to Matthias, okay, that's a bright idea. Let's do this together and let's try to start something for the country. So based on this, we started in, I would say, March of this year.
Thank you. And okay, that is about you believing in something and your partner Matthias as well. But what was then the need behind it? What was the need you identified? It's nice not to miss out something, but what was the need you identified or you thought that could be satisfied by your solution?
There have always been these last 10 years some, I would say, buzzwords which really triggered innovation and I would say interest from the public. We can name blockchain in 2000, I would say 12 or 13. Then there was AI, IoT, this kind of also industry 3.0, how to implement this. And I mean, metaverse was a new buzzword. And I was like, okay, let's just try to also have it also in the country, because we can, I mean, with my partner, we have this competence to deliver that. And for once, because I used to run other startups which were maybe not that, I would say, cutting edge, more like implementation, I was like, okay, let's now be into this big wave, big hype, and let's try to do something real out of this hype. So that was the starting point of this. But then after, things are going a bit, shaky, but we're gonna discuss this after.
Thank you very much. Okay, and did you immediately have in mind how you eventually could monetize on it?
Yes. We just replicated, when we launched our metaverse, maybe I don't know if the audience knows, but there were already two major, I would say, metaverse. Maybe the most famous one is to everybody is, of course, the Sandbox, which is, I would say, something which was launched already 4 to 5 years ago. I mean, along with Meta transition. And there was also another metaverse called Decentraland, and both are already operating, and we can see how they make money. So there was this parcel way of making money. So you buy and sell lands for you. You can also maybe monetize in another way by just building assets, 3D buildings, for instance. So it requires some creativity, some work to deliver that. So we have these elements of business model. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's about a little bit saying, okay, this is what you like to aim to, but how did you go about it? Okay, you had technical know-how, and how did you go about developing it? Was it already existing, or did you build it from scratch?
Well, we build from scratch. It's all about the motor engine rendering. To display 3D elements, you need to have I would say, an engine which really renders this into, I would say, web. So, but the web has not been designed initially to support a very nice rendering, because it's just yes, HTML elements, and you can't really load a lot of assets. It also depends on your capacity of your computer. If you have a computer which has a low GPU, then it's going to require a lot of computation to render something nice. So we can take the example of Second Life. Second Life was based on the web, but with, I would say, graphics which were more like 2D or 3D. But now, I mean, for now, the breakthrough of Netflix, a lot of contents are streamed. So now what we are doing is that we stream a video from I would say, a video game. So it's more or less something which is installed in a server, and we render it to a web browser. This is the trick.
Okay, so the idea was there, the hype, the buzz was there as well. You now have the solution, the technical solution. How did you go about it in order to field test your solution with some friendly users on getting the feedback that you were on the right track? How did you go about that one?
First, we built a prototype, which was, I would say, working on a computer. So we have a game computer here, and we went to clients and prospects to show them how it could look like. And what we can say is that, based and compared to different metaverses, because you know that metaverses with a lot of actors, and it is still not a standard about this word, we try to differentiate ourselves by having a really nice 3D rendering, the nice graphics. And we try also to adapt to the country, because Luxembourg is a bit, I would say, a premium country where people expect to pay a lot and receive quality. And so this is what we try to, I would say, go in line with, to also develop something which is nice visually. Also, Steve, because most of these players in the metaverse are, I would say, young persons, Generation Z, gamers. I mean, the young generation are much more native in terms of digital than us. But definitely, to target maybe more aged persons, we need to have something which really renders nice visually. So we try to work on this.
Okay. That's that's a little bit the USP you had. And what was the feedback from the early testers? Not only from the technology side, but also did they give you feedback on their propensity to use it and eventually to pay for it?
Well, they were amazed. I must say that one of our clients is, I would say, an accountant I know from some time, and he was really dubious about the metaverse and its potential. But then when he looked at the solution, he was like, "Oh, I really didn't figure out." Because of course, projection of people, it goes through Hollywood, it goes through from the Steven Spielberg movie. It goes also through what you see from Zuckerberg with, I would say, his VR headset. So the thing is that people have really different expectation about the metaverse, and there's not a standard. So as I said, once they see our universe, they are like, wow, okay, we didn't expect this. Maybe it would be nice to make a move forward. So we managed to get clients even though we are still not online. And we're going to be online also to inform the audience at the beginning of 2023. So, because I mean, it's something to put it on the computer. It's another thing also to make it alive for a web browser. But we are working on this, and definitely it's going to be launched soon.
Okay, thank you very much. I see there are questions coming in, but I will pick them up during our discussion.
Right.
So, okay, we have that one. You had some feedback, and you said you had now some clients or users of the platform in stealth mode. This means invitation only. How shall I say? How is the business model behind? How is the revenue model behind? Is it based on subscription? Is it a one-off setup fee? Is it a subscription fee, and you can buy assets? How can one imagine the revenue model that you are able to see behind?
Well, do you really think we could make a revolution? No, it's really like we try to keep something safe also to investors, because they would understand more the concept, and they could also help to fund us if they see subscription. So definitely in the startup world, subscription is always like a guarantee of safety. And this is what we are trying to do. So for our first client, we propose like a 1-year membership, and one year after they can terminate the contract if they're not happy. But it ensures us some money, I would say. And so this fee covers, the marketing they want to do, because just also to explain, once you enter into the Duchy, we develop your pavilion, your 3D building. It can be something really standard, or it can be something tailor-made. Depends on the client's needs. But once the client wants to enter, he can send us all his material, could be like JPEG, videos, etc., colors, and we customize the pavilion to its colors. And the prices, the subscription embeds this thing. And also to tell you about this I would say, parcel of land, we first went for it because it was really popular and hype in February, March. But of course, after the crypto crash and all that stuff, it loses, of course, a lot of traction, even in the most popular metaverse. So for our universe, would it really make sense to sell a lot of lands without having a nice market? Let's first have more clients, and then once the market grows, we can go to this business model. But I think it's a bit too far ahead.
Thank you very much. Okay, you have the clients who are paying a subscription or anything else, and the users, I mean the visitors and so on. Do they also have to pay, or is it first a freemium and then a paying model for accessing more services? How can one imagine that one?
Well, I think I don't know any metaverse who needs to pay to enter. I mean, it's Web3, so I'll be a little bit like Web2. There are a lot of freemium things when you can access to have a standard, I would say, functionality. And then if you want to go with some elements, you need to pay. So getting back to the video game industry, one thing which is already popular in some metaverses is to buy some clothes for your avatar. It can generate revenue if you have a new hoodie, new trousers and so sneakers to show to your friends in the game. Then that's I would say a commitment. So most of these video games are free, but you have this pay to earn. It's called pay-to-earn business model. So that's one thing. Another thing could be e-commerce. So once you buy elements into our platform, would it be virtual or real, we can take a commission fee. But this thing is a bit more once we should develop. But at first could be really just nice to have a clothes for your avatar. But it has to be free.
Okay. And the other thing, now coming to the clients and the visitors, the users, is it, I mean, they go, and is it more like, let's just say, a marketing use for your clients, or is it all imaginable that it's really the clients would have a second presence in the metaverse, and they could even offer services if they are service providers? They could do, I don't know, workshops, they could do client meetings, they eventually could provide, I don't know, for example, if imagine there's a drinks shop there, you could order the drinks either for the real world or for the virtual world. For the virtual world, I understand, but is it also feasible, or did you imagine that your clients could also make the link between, or the transition between your metaverse and the real world, the services or product they are offering there?
I mean, we can differentiate companies who have consumer goods, matter 3D objects like tangible projects to sell, and companies selling services. And what we can say for sure is that companies who deliver material tangible goods could be real estate for buildings, could be also automotive, could be, I would say, furniture. Definitely they are more interested to sell these elements because this is a way to show and figure out what it's like. So like a new kitchen, for instance, or this kind of thing, we can show it really nicely in a metaverse without having the client go there. So he can have a first impression by going into a metaverse. So that's one thing. And well, I don't know what you were expecting also for the answer. I forgot a bit the question.
No, we are coming back to that one. Don't mind. The other thing is, okay, we have now the metaverse, we have the clients, we have the users, and I'm coming now back a little bit to the clients.
To interrupt you, I just remember what you're saying about this question. Yeah, I mean, the first clients are a bit like for any major technological breakthrough, the first clients are always these kind of pioneers. So they take risk knowing that it's not really live. And they say, okay, it's nice, even though it's not live, I want to be there to be the first. There's always the first movers. And then the others are just watching to say, okay, that's nice, but I bought to go further. And so we have a lot of people who wait in the back, but they are definitely eager to go into a metaverse. But they need to convince people. So of course, being live is definitely a major milestone to achieve, and then to convince more people to enter this universe. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And now coming back to the clients a little bit. I mean, you have the ones which are already the early adopters, the early movers. Then you have the followers and so on. The thing is, what would be the profile of clients you are now going towards? I mean, when you are now launching, I guess you have some profiles of clients in mind.
Yes.
What would be the ideal profile of a client for you?
There's one thing we didn't mention so far in this conversation is tourism aspects. Metaverse is really nice to also figure out monuments, elements you can't access, especially for foreigners. Assume you are, I don't know, you come from Hong Kong, you want to figure out what is Vianden Castle, or I would say what is the Gelfra in Luxembourg, then you can access a metaverse to just know more about these elements. Also, just know more about the history behind. It's a way to showcase these elements. So definitely it could be interesting for this kind of touristic companies, institutions to enter a metaverse. For other companies, I would say, of course, leisure. For me, we really think, me and Matthias, that it has to be fun. The metaverse has to be fun. It doesn't have to be boring or only professional. So if we want to have a generalist metaverse, which combines both B2B and B2C, just going to this B2C segment, all these companies who are, I would say, fun, could be brewery, could be theater, could be this kind of company which give fun to people, then we see them as strategic, because they can give something interesting and fun for youngsters, and also to attract also their parents to go there and to have a more professional use of metaverse.
Thank you. And how are you now going towards? That's one of the questions coming. I mean, you have been in stealth mode, and then you are going to launch. What is the view, the short-term, medium, or long-term view you have for the company, for your project, for your venture?
That's a good question. Especially considering what is going to come from Facebook, because you know that Mark Zuckerberg has invested billions. So we are not expecting that he doesn't get anything in return. Once again, one day or another, he will take revenge of all these billion lost. So I think that these Americans are really good at, trying to make all that work with the hardware work. You know, they bought Oculus. There's also Microsoft with its HoloLens VR. So all these kind of device, which for a European startup is really difficult to achieve and to create, these companies have a bit like a chance to make it, I would say, a word. So what we are a bit afraid of is that they try to, I would say, make this kind of cartel market when it's difficult to enter, and they say, to enter metaverse, you need to have a headset. We are more visualization elements. But when we think we're a bit ahead is that we are based in Luxembourg, we know our community. So I think it's time to create something for the country, not waiting for Microsoft or Facebook to develop this. So my vision is on this. But once we get some traction, then these companies could say, okay, all right, you have already some reputation, so it could be nice to collaborate. We also never mentioned this aspect, which is interoperability. Some clients say, some who already bought parcels in Sandbox, etc. Are you interoperable with other metaverse? And that's a big subject, because now technologies is so scattered. Purpose of metaverse are also very different. We didn't go into detail, but metaverse can differentiate by blockchain or not blockchain. Is it really represent a real world or an abstract world? VR or no VR headset. So there are a lot of differentiative things to separate the metaverse. So there's no one standard. So we really hope we make technological choices, and we hope that in the future it's going to be adopted. And let's see if it goes there. So it's like bet. We are bargaining that it's going to go to this direction. And I think that in the future, the company which will really get the value is the one who has the data, like Facebook and other GAFAM. So if we can create something where there is a lot of interaction and API, that's probably the company who's going to prevail in the future.
Thank you. And on the other hand, you are talking about, we have been talking a little bit like a real estate. I'm talking about the Duchy. It's, let's say, it's a grand duchy in the world, the metaverse. And it's a country. You're talking about the country, Luxembourg as a country, and country is also characterized by citizenship and inhabitants. There pops up, somebody picked up, and I also had the same idea, the idea of an e-residency like you have in Estonia, that you could do e-residence in the Duchy. Really, who knows, there will be a certain tax regime for, a virtual tax regime or social regime for the Duchy that, for example, in order to access a few services, you could go via the Duchy. If you have, let's say, like an ID card of the Duchy, you're a Duchy resident or a Duchy citizen. And so you could develop it, could be developed into further countries. Is that something which is feasible, which was in your roadmap?
You make me remind of this Liberland project made by European Commission once, like some 10 years ago, with this kind of fantasy word where you can have a passport. I don't know. I mean, it's up to the market to decide. What we can say so far is we didn't reinvent the wheel. There are other countries who try to have their own metaverse. We can take the example of Dubai, also Monaco. So I would say all the small countries could try to differentiate themselves by having their metaverse. This is also why I can also relate to the Duchy. Like, if you want to reproduce a metaverse for the whole Germany or the whole France, would be really difficult because you have so many actors interacting. And the power of Luxembourg is that it's a small country, it's more like a country department, a county. And so all the actors are already present here. So it's easier to build. Otherwise, it's a bit maybe a bit too ambitious.
Thank you. We are nearly coming slowly to the end of our fireside chat. But the other thing is, there was a question about, I mean, okay, you have built it, you invested time and sweat into it. You have a few clients which use it now. You are going to have more clients. But in between, to develop yourself, how did you secure the resources? Resources is not only financial, but also for the next steps, because in order to grow, you also need to scale, and scaling in technology world means also infrastructure scaling. So how are you going to approach that?
Well,
or have you approached it, or how have you approached it so far?
No, that's a really an interesting question, because we are facing this issue right now here in the country. Because I mean, maybe people don't know, but here in Luxembourg we have a very a big lack of competencies in the IT sector. What people we are looking for is more game developers, people who know about this environment. And here is more like a banking industry with, I would say, standard software, which is not really a cutting edge. So we need sometimes to outsource this project to other company, and that may be a problem in the future. So in order to grow, we need to find people more in Europe. We can already say that there are some already schools who know the importance of making video games, and there are some video games schools in Europe. But yes, the human capital is always difficult in the metaverse environment. I would say much more the people are in Asia. And the Europe has to, but I think there is some progress from the European Commission that at least know that metaverse could be a hot topic to develop, but to make the trainings, and they're still at the very beginning.
Okay, thank you. So now we're coming to the end, and in the startup grind custom, it is there are two last questions. The first one would be, if we are also coming to the end of the year and so on, if you had a crystal ball and a magic wand, what would you like that the magic that to see in the crystal ball, and with your magic wand you could realize?
I was not expecting this question. I would say maybe some news, some positive news from these big companies, from like Facebook, because it can always benefit to other smaller companies like ours. Because once we had what we had this last 3 or 4 months was a storm of bad news. That's sad for us because we are not reliable for this, but definitely there was a big hype, and that's really like a big fall, and that's almost impressive. And I think that good news from these companies could trigger more interest. What is good is that the interest is still here. People are more or less convinced that it's going to be the future, but they are still shaky. So yeah, this is my wish, I would say. Some positive news.
Okay, thank you. And now on the other side, I mean, Startup Grind is a worldwide community, a diverse community, and so on. And what could the Startup Grind community assist you in, if any, worldwide or in Luxembourg?
No, to connect us with other builders and actors which could be nearby Luxembourg. You know, this model could be could be also made to also develop and expand elsewhere. So I mean, if there are companies who or people who want to work on a specific project for another thing, I mean, we are up to collaborate. So this is what we are expecting. Of course, in the development side, if they have in this startup group, there are developers or game developers, we will be more than happy to welcome their profile, to know their experience, and maybe to collaborate with them. So this is what I could expect from them. Also, if there are people who go work for AWS or cloud servers, could be nice, because that's also a challenge for a metaverse to host and to control the cost, to render a nice resolution in your laptop.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Guillaume, for having played the game.
Thank you, Steve.
And wishing you all the best for your venture. And as you heard, grinders, startup grinders. If you're a game developer, reach out, or even if you are more in infrastructure business related to the metaverse and so, also reach out to us. So wishing you and thanking you first for having joined us today, and looking forward to another one. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.